Hello, in this video I will show how a tenant can access the database management features using the SQL DBS web interface. I have just received the message that a new database was created by the system manager, so I will give you a quick tour of what I can do with this database. I will now log in as the tenant user on the same portal that the administrator would use. Note that this user is not a NonStop username, it is used for database access only. So I log on as a tenant, my username, Frans at home, with my password. A database overview is now displayed. It is like what the system administrator would see, but I only see the databases that I have access to. The screen includes information of my databases on this system, together with the runtime information such as the running state, the configured number of connections and the active connections. The bottom half of the screen shows additional information about the currently selected database. The top part of the screen is used to select a database, and the bottom part is used to show the additional data about this database using the radio buttons. Using these buttons, information about schemas, users, connections and storage is provided. So the schemas show me at minimum two schemas, right? The default schema and a system schema called information schema. Users shows the users on the database. And when the database is just created, only one user is present. The user that is shown here is my user, and I have create access, and I am also the owner of this database. All users of a database with create access are considered to be owners of that database. The owner can create other database objects, like tables and indexes, and add users with their permissions, and even in the end remove the database without involving the system administrator. Let's add a new user that has read-only access to the data. The action menu at the top right shows actions that are available, like remove database, start and stop, but add user here. I'm adding a new user called test user 1. I need to provide a password. And provide the access type. There are 4 access types. Create access allows full access to the database as the owner. Write access gives read and write access to the data, but these users cannot create objects. Read access allows users to read the data only. These accesses are valid on all current and future tables in this database. And then finally, none means that the user needs specific access granted to existing tables. It's a finer granularity, but more work for the database owner. So I give read access, and the user now gets added to the database. It's getting added to the read group, and they will have read access to all of the current and future tables of this database. And this user is now shown in this list. Right. I can delete the user from the same action menu. Next, connections lists the active and ready connections to the database. Active connections show information from the client that holds that connection. This database has no active connections, only a few server processes are waiting. And then finally, storage. The storage shows detailed storage information. There are 2 types. At the top, SQL file space based on volumes. we see the name of the volume, the amount of requested storage from Create Database, and the amount of assigned storage. Since a complete volume is assigned, there is room for growth without adding more storage. Complete volumes are assigned for isolation between tenants and to avoid resource conflicts between tenants as much as possible. OSS storage is used to store schema backups and other system use when needed. So this was the overview of the database view. There are other views, for example, the data source information. I will quickly show this view. The data source view shows the active controls to the runtime environment and some changes that an owner can make. Actually 4. The owner can modify a few parameters such as the number of servers and the timeout values. For example, the number of idle servers determines the number of connections that are ready to accept new requests. Other values can be changed, but only by the system administrator. Let's cancel here. The bottom part shows a number of controls, of runtime controls, that can be modified. For our purpose, let's change the default block size for tables and indexes. By default, this is set to 4K. In a previous setting, I've set it to 32K, so let's change it back to 4096 to restore its original default, just to show that it can be done. These new values will be set for new connections. And finally, before trying to do anything with the database, we need a suitable driver. And they are in the downloads view, so let's look at them. The downloads view shows the user manual of this interface, some example files to build a test database, and the drivers for Linux, Windows, and the JDBC Type 4 driver for Java. For a quick first test, you can download just a few files. rmxci.command.shell is a Windows command file. rmxci.jar is the jar for rmxci, and you need t4sqlmx.jar for that's the driver for SQLMX, and you also need that for other clients. So you can use those 3 to make your first connection to the database from a Windows system. I will show that in another video. For now, this concludes my demo. My name is Frans Jongma, and thank you for your attention.